The Enhanced Games just wrapped up, and man, it was not what people expected. Despite being announced back in 2023 and officially stated to take place in Las Vegas over 1 year ago, only a single athlete managed to break an actual world record, and many performed way worse than expected. The Enhanced Games, for those who don't know, is this private arrangement for athletes where huge prize money would be paid out to anyone who could break a standing world record within their respective sports. Basically like the Olympic Games, but with huge prizes of cash. And of course without any drug testing regulations, which means that athletes could take anything as long as it was FDA approved, which means that anabolic steroids and human growth hormone, for example, were in the green. They started off marketing this way back in 2023 when this Australian guy wanted to see how far you could push the human body in athletic endeavor. And he announced that he would personally sponsor an event where athletes could take whatever form of PEDs they wanted, receive medical attention throughout the entire process, and fight for a world record within their respective sports, where anyone who broke a world record would receive $1 million in prize money. Finally, we would get to see what the human body was capable of. Imagine someone running the 100-meter dash faster than 9.5 seconds. Imagine someone breaking every swimming record or every weightlifting record. Except that's not what happened. Not even close. In fact, it was a spectacular failure. Let's start with the most embarrassing event of the whole weekend, the 100-meter dash. You know, the biggest event in any athletic competition ever, the one that determines the fastest man on the planet. During the Olympics, this event tends to draw hundreds of millions of viewers every single time. Usain Bolt ran the 100-meter in 9.58 seconds back in 2009, and the second fastest time someone else has ever ran was 9.69 seconds. So surely with athletes juiced to the gills and $1 million on the line, we would at least see something close to that, right?
Wrong.
Well, the winner of the Enhanced Games 100-meter dash barely ran faster than 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Fred Curley won the event in 9.97, which is 0.21 seconds slower than his all-time best from 2022, when he competed while drug tested. This was supposed to be the future of human performance, and instead we got a time that wouldn't even qualify for the Olympic Games semi-finals. And it gets worse, because the women's 100 meters was actually won by an athlete who competed clean, like she didn't even want to take PEDs for the event, and she won with a time of 11.25 seconds, which for reference is 0.21 seconds slower than the last place finisher in the finals at the last Olympic Games. But it somehow manages to get even worse. You all know Hafthor Bjornsson. He was supposed to deadlift 515 kilos and break the all-time world record. And even he failed despite being the current reigning world record holder. And there were many critiques about the environment these guys were lifting in, with the lift being done outside in scorching heat and using a super slippery deadlift platform. Now, everyone knew that Thor had been taking stuff for close to 2 decades, but it was just the icing on the cake for a competition that was already set up for failure, that even he wasn't able to break a world record, which many thought was crazy considering he did 5'10" so easily less than 1 year ago. But the biggest upset about the Enhanced Games was just the lack of athlete quality in general. Many of the athletes competing weren't even in their own best shape. Like, most weren't even able to hit new personal records, let alone come anything close to the world records that they aimed to break. A lot of them were just washed up competitors, athletes from past their prime, and people who just weren't real contenders for world records in the first place. It's almost as if the truly elite athletes, you know, the ones capable of breaking these records, wanted absolutely nothing to do with the circus. Like, either you compete, you try to break your own record, and you get outed for life because you participated, or you don't compete and you keep your dignity. Like, imagine if Noah Lyles came to the Enhanced Games and he didn't break Usain Bolt's 100-meter record. He would probably lose his sponsors, and he might not ever be allowed to compete tested ever again. All just for this single shot to make $1 million, which I assume he makes way more than that during a regular season anyways. Out of all the events held over that weekend, only one actual world record was broken. One. And it was the 50-meter freestyle swimming event, which was taken by this guy whose name I can't pronounce. Now, he did end up with $1.25 million in prize money, but that record actually wouldn't be allowed anyways, because he used an illegal swimming suit to make him go faster in the water, which means that he only really beat the record because he cheated with better equipment, not even with PEDs. So what went wrong? How did such a massive event with seemingly unlimited funding backed by billionaires and promoted as the future of sport fail so spectacularly? Well, first of all, talent to be the greatest athlete on earth doesn't just appear because you throw money at it. Like, there's already enough money in elite level sports. The best athletes in the world, the ones actually capable of breaking world records, are already competing in the Olympics, the World Championships, and other legitimate events while tested. They have huge sponsorship deals, they have national team support, and frankly, many just don't want to destroy their careers long term by publicly admitting to doping. Hence why all of these athletes, with the exception perhaps of Thor and Hooper in the deadlift event, weren't the best in the world. If the very best competed under these same circumstances, the outcomes might have been different and more records could have been broken. And secondly, the public absolutely hated the idea of the enhanced games. They frankly didn't get a lot of positive exposure. Sure, many thought it would be fun to see how much these enhanced athletes could break the old world records by, but when the actual performance ended up being so subpar compared to expectations, it lost all of its hype, and it's very unlikely that this could ever turn into a long-term standing competition to rival the Olympic Games. On top of this, most people just want to believe in the purity of sport. Even if that belief is somewhat naive, the enhanced games just took away any pretense of fair play, any illusion of natural ability, and replaced it with a pharmaceutical arms race. And most of the viewers, including myself, just found it pretty hollow. Like, there is no inspiration in seeing someone fail to break a world record when they've had every possible advantage. There's no underdog story, there's no triumph of the human spirit or tremendous work ethic. It's just drug enhancements and chemistry. Or at least when we know they're on drugs, that is what most people will see. However, the enhanced games actually highlighted something many people do not want to admit. If professional athletes on every drug imaginable couldn't break the current world records, then what does that say about the records that are standing today? Just think about that. We just watched athletes with unlimited pharmaceutical access, no testing, and massive financial incentives fail to break world records that were supposedly set clean, some of which from decades ago. Like, either the enhanced games athletes were catastrophically incompetent or low quality in comparison, which yes, definitely played a role, or maybe, just maybe, the records we celebrate now as clean weren't quite as natural as we'd like to believe. Take Usain Bolt's 9.58 in the 100 meters. To this day, he is the only person to ever run faster than 9.75 seconds who hasn't been caught doping. And the others like Tyson Gay, Johan Blake, and Justin Gatlin all got caught. Now, I'm not saying straight up that the greatest sprinter of all time took PEDs, but don't you find it a bit strange how people use PEDs because they're so performance enhancing, it's literally in the name, yet nobody who has ever taken them has even gotten close to this record. It does raise a couple of uncomfortable questions about what is really going on during those world record breaking performances. Now again, I'm not saying that every world record holder is a cheat, but I am saying that the enhanced games accidentally became a weird sort of reverse control group. It showed us that using every single advantage, breaking these records is incredibly difficult still, which means that the people who did break them either had something that the enhanced games athletes didn't, be it superior genetics, better programming, or perhaps smarter drug protocols, or better ways to avoid getting detected, or they simply got really lucky on that specific day. The enhanced games will probably never be repeated because of the failure it eventually became. The backlash was frankly immediate, the athletic performances were embarrassing, and the whole event felt less like the future of sport and more like a really expensive TV show that nobody cared to watch. Though at least some athletes got a decent paycheck. The International Olympic Committee condemned it, WADA called it dangerous, and most legitimate athletes wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. But even in its spectacular failure, it did teach us something arguably very valuable. That world-class performance is probably about far more than just pharmacology. Even if tested athletes have taken PEDs, they would still never be able to do so to the degree that enhanced athletes do. AKA, they would still have a massive advantage over tested athletes. Like, it's also about genetics, training, techniques, and mental fortitude, and the things that we really praise in great athletes and sport performances. You can't just inject your way to greatness in the world of competitive sport, no matter how much money someone throws at you if you don't have the fundamentals going. So, to the enhanced games organizers, thank you for proving that even if you remove all of the rules, human performance still has a few limits. And maybe the records we have standing today deserve a tiny bit more scrutiny than we've been giving them. Because if athletes taking everything under the sun couldn't get close to breaking them, either those records are truly exceptional, or the people who set them knew something that the Enhanced Games participants did not. But what do you guys think? Did you find the Enhanced Games fascinating, or was it just a huge blow as an attempt to create something never seen before? Let me know down below in the comments what you guys think about the Enhanced Games, and as always, I'll see you all next time.